Who's been messing up everything? It's Wanda. It's all Wanda.
I hope you're still able to make your trip.
Ah, yes, my trip. I don't think we'll get away after all. Small towns, you know, so hard to escape.
So in the show, Wanda and Vision are living in an idyllic suburban life in the town of Westview. As they begin to enter new decades and encounter new television tropes, the couple suspects that everything is not what it seems. I think you should know by now, but there are gonna be some spoilers, just warning you, even though I think you should really know that by now, because if not, that would be really concerning. Anyway, WandaVision. I love the whole concept with the sitcoms. I love the fact that Wanda and Vision are both front and center here. I also love that it was something from Marvel after not getting anything for more than a year, which really made me go insane. But the question is this show really great? So I got good news and I got bad news for you boyos and girlos. The bad news is, in my opinion, this show objectively isn't great, but the good news is that this show, with all its flaws, with all the stuff that made me kind of annoyed, it's pretty good. Yeah, that sounded way better in my head. Now, don't get me wrong, when you see the title of this video, you're obviously gonna go like, oh, you're a WandaVision hater, you don't like the MCU, and you don't like sitcoms? No, that's actually not it at all. I'm a huge fanboy of the MCU, and I adore sitcoms. But honestly, the only way to answer this question is ever hear of the word overrated, because at times this show can be very, you guessed it, overrated. Every single time an episode would come up, week by week, people would analyze and speculate the hell out of it. They'd be like, oh my god, that thing relates to that thing, or oh my god, the license plate had Stan Lee's birthday. Okay, I know that was intentional, and that was actually such a great sort of cameo. Rest in peace, Stan. Rest in peace. But what's so funny is that all of these theories are with a show that pretty much rejected every fan theory imaginable. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's actually talk about some of the good stuff with this show. For one, the performances, particularly from Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, and Kathryn Hahn, which are just phenomenal. Even though they don't have a lot to work with some of these episodes, I mean, the whole reveal with Agatha was just, I'm sorry, there must have been more to that. But let's be honest, they do make the most out of everything, and due to that, a lot of their performances can be kind of summed up in one scene. Like, for example, for Paul Bettany, it would be that scene in episode 5 where he was just yelling at Wanda.
Let him reach them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Stop lying to me!
This, all of this, is for us. So let me handle it.
What is outside of Westview?
You don't want to know, I promise you.
You don't get to make that choice for me, Wanda!
You've never talked to me like this before.
Before what? Before what? I can't remember my life before Westview. I don't know who I am. I'm scared.
And with Elizabeth Olsen, it was in episode 8 where she just breaks, and we see the whole construction of this sitcom world. I mean, good God, give this woman an Emmy. And for Kathryn Hahn, it's, you guessed it, it's been Agatha all along. If you still take it from the context of the entire plot, the song will still be a friggin' bop. Easily one of the best songs to a sitcom ever. And speaking of the sitcom elements at their best, they can be pretty solid. Not fantastic or anything like that, but it is pretty cute. I mean, they usually get the look down, especially from the 50s.
Would you be so good as to tell me what it is we do here exactly? Do we make something?
No.
Right, do we buy or sell something?
But the writing overall is really, and I mean really, hit or miss. The only episodes that work to that advantage are the first episodes due to the comedy being kind of innocent and kid-friendly like the Dick Van Dyke Show, but episodes like the Malcolm in the Middle based episode or the Modern Family / Office hybrid based episode aren't as funny as they should have been. Like, with such an out there genre like the 90s, you need to make the humor a lot more edgy and a lot more satirical. And like I said, with WandaVision, the look and the tone are on point, it's just the stuff being said, or as I like to say, the comedy isn't as top notch. The same thing goes for the Modern Family / Office based episode, where they just don't take a lot of the advantage that you can have when you're literally mocking a mockumentary. I mean, you do get a little reference here or there, but it sometimes feels like the bare minimum. Like with the 90s, saying the word lame officially makes them know the 90s for some reason. Or with the mockumentary, having a shaky cam or looking at the camera or even having an interview does not equally mean that they've watched Modern Family or The Office.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. Intel has told us there are at least 7.
Okay, I already see one. Give him. Okay.
They're the same picture.
I mean, some of the jokes work, like when Wanda's talking about what's been going on and how she can't fix what's going on. Why am I even explaining it? Roll the clip.
I don't understand what's happening. Why it's all falling apart and why I can't fix it.
Do you think maybe this is what you deserve?
What? You're not supposed to talk.
Another one is when they're interviewing Vision and this happens.
What am I doing here? Sitting, talking to you, when this is absurd. I need to get my wife.
Another thing are those theme songs. Each of them perfectly implement the time and genre they're going for, especially the Malcolm in the Middle one and the Modern Family Office one. You see, jokes like that really work. And then we have the stuff out of the sitcom world, like the whole thing with the Sword Agency, which, I'm not gonna lie, really brings a question of, what the hell were they doing all this time when the world was 50% wiped out? I mean, there must have been a few people from Sword that survived the snap, am I right? But either way, the show also introduces us to Monica Rambeau, which I'm not gonna lie, it's a great name and also a great character too. But aside from Jimmy Woo, who finally learned his magic trick, haha.
Sir, can you knock? Sorry, sir.
I understood that reference.
They bring a character in this show who, in my opinion, is probably the most annoying and worst character ever from the MCU. Darcy. The moment I saw Kat Dennings doing snippets of her failed comedy routine, I knew immediately that the writing for this film felt more like writing from Thor 2, if anything.
What I do know is I've been watching WandaVision for the past week, and the love you two have is real.
And then there's this Dick Hayward guy that, you know what, mentioning him in this video feels more than enough to me. As Cosmonaut puts it, he's kind of the biggest ERJB villain I've seen in a while, and I feel like that is kind of too much for him to even give. But I feel like this show at times doesn't even know what to be, because sometimes it's a really good representation of a sitcom, sometimes the stuff outside from Westview is sometimes really necessary, and sometimes the choices like bringing Quicksilver in, played by Evan Peters in the 5th episode, was such a genius idea.
I'm so confused. These are confusing times. Right, no.
Who's a popsicle?
But other times, Imagine what I just said, but vice versa. If I gave you 3 different scenes from the show, you wouldn't even know that this was the entire show of WandaVision. Sometimes it feels like you're just obligated to watch the next episode. Episodes like The Mandalorian just hooks you up and just fuels you and makes you want the next Friday to come and come quickly. But with WandaVision, most of the time I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued, I like these actors, I like these ideas, but I feel like whenever I see this show, I always imagine what it could have been rather than what it truly is, and that's a flawed but still rather adequate show. The only episode that made me intrigued throughout the entire thing was honestly the 8th episode. This was the episode that really made me feel what everybody's been feeling about the entire show.
I don't need sleep. I need answers.
The 8th episode of the show was pretty much like the Wanda origin story. Like, this was her time to shine, and honestly, I have no problems with that episode. It really is that great. Like when Agatha said,
"This is chaos magic, Wanda. And that makes you the Scarlet Witch."
I was like, oh yes, finally. They finally said it. She is the Scarlet Witch.
It's beautiful. I've looked at this for 5 hours now.
Which leads us to the 9th and final episode, which I thought was average. It was fine. A lot of people feel pretty mixed about the finale, and honestly, I get it. Not a lot of the things the show was setting up gets resolved, and did Wanda really think she could have killed Agatha with a car? Because if so, that would have been a pretty disappointing KO. Haha, that rhymed. Anyway.
This is gonna be a gas!
Anyway. There's a lot of other stuff like that, like Where is the White Vision Now, which I just realized isn't a great name to call him. Can I do it again? Anyway, there's a lot of other stuff like that, like Where is the White Vision that looks like he was washed by a gallon of Tide now? I mean, he's got the memories, am I right? Like, when is he gonna meet up with her again? This is stupid. Smoosh your face! The fight scene with both Wanda and Agatha was overall fine, but I think the best scene of the entire show was literally Vision giving White Vision a philosophy class. I mean, guys, I'm all for a CG fight with a bunch of witches, but a deep intellectual conversation between 2 synthesizers? Now that's my cup of tea.
I request elaboration.
This is where the fun begins.
And you know what else just rubs me in the wrong way? It actually wasn't Agatha all along. Who was really all alonging it was actually Wanda. So it's actually been Wanda all along. Haha, actually, you know what? It doesn't sound that catchy. It has been Agatha all along. But anyway, everything with the Scarlet Witch is great. The suit looks really neat with a very interesting addition, to say the least. The mid-credits was kind of and so was the after-credits, honestly. I mean, it's a cool shot and effect. It's so cool it can literally be my wallpaper, which I don't say very lightly. But does that mean she meets Doctor Strange in the sequel? Cause I don't see no Cumberbatch around here. And you know, that's the thing with this show. It just surprises you in the most underwhelming way possible at times. I mean, we thought that Doctor Strange and Mephisto and or the Fantastic Four were gonna show up, but then the cameo we didn't really care for at first, which was the whole Evan Peters, Quicksilver, X-Men phenomenon thing, all turned out to be a lousy crotch joke. You gotta be kidding me.
You're Ralph Boner?
Boner.
I mean, how cool would it have been if in the after credits scene Doctor Strange comes into her cabin by doing his orange whooshy thing and then he tells her, "You're coming with me." I mean, wouldn't that just be so awesome? Another one could be for Mephisto, where it turns out that Evan Peters' fake Quicksilver, or in internet standards, Pietro, I don't know, was just a secret that even Agatha didn't know about, and he turned out to be, voila, Mephisto. Or an even better theory, do you remember that guy that went into the sewer to get into the sitcom world that Monica said she was really good friends with? Well, in the 7th episode, which is the episode that has an Office-based theme song, I think you know where I'm going with this, instead of that guy not even being a guy and being some woman that trained with Rambo or some crap, the person would be Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, played by the one and only John Krasinski, that if you don't know, because you've been living under a rock, especially in 2020, played Jim Halpert in The Office, which was also the most streamed show of all last year.
Turns out that woman was a grown-up Monica Rambeau from Captain Marvel, and she keeps mentioning this aerospace engineer that she knows. Aerospace engineer, Reed Richards, Fantastic Four? Certainly seems like I'm teasing something like that, doesn't it? It does. Oh, this is very exciting. Yeah, you like that, huh? You big dummy. What?
You see, all these theories right there could have made this show 100 times better. No, the hell with it, a bajillion times better. But you know what? After all the complaining, after all the hate I've been giving this show, it's still good. You know, people like myself still need to remember that these fan theories are exactly what they are, fan theories. This is the show that's probably gonna be the most Phase 1 project from the MCU of Phase 4. What I mean is, with Phase 1 in the MCU, they kind of started off everything by playing it kind of safe. Which makes sense. How can you top off something that was so epic as Endgame? This is probably gonna be the show where it builds a new foundation for the MCU to make them have some really weird creative crap instead of the same thing you'd expect from the MCU. I mean, looking at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Loki and Spider-Man No Way Home, great title by the way, is building up some new grounds from the stuff that WandaVision started with, you know, the whole multiverse and such. But either way, I still love the MCU, and though this show isn't one of their best works, it still is a really good show and a pretty good yet pretty unintentional start to Phase 4 that has fantastic acting, great concepts, a fantastic score. I mean, good God, Agatha all along should really win an Emmy. And I hope this show can be a new beginning from something as fantastic and worldwide as the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.